we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll call the Saline City Council work meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Members present this evening are myself, Mayor Morrow, Council Members Seo, Dillon, Gearbaugh, McClellan, Mitchell, and Mayor Pro Tem Tahar. From City staff, we have City Manager Campbell, Clerk Royal. I believe Treasurer Bennett is somewhere. I don't think she's in the room at the moment, but she is present, as well as our bond counsel, Roger Sweats. The rest of you who are in attendance this evening, we welcome you and we encourage you to sign in the back to my left. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. One slight change on the discussion portion of the agenda. During presentations, IHA will be going first, followed by GBA development.
Move as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. McClellan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The agenda is approved as amended. We come now to public comments. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested, but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments? Then we'll proceed to the discussion portion of the agenda, Sauk Trail Business Park, Lot 20A. So just a little bit of background, and most of you will recall this. It was probably about a month ago now that the city manager and I, along with Mayor Pro Tem Tahar, Mr. Gearbaugh participated, I believe, via conference call. Nick Curcio was also present, as well as the city superintendent engineer, Mr. Rubel. We met with Tony Caparisi and both of the applicants this evening, as well as a third party that had initially expressed some interest in Lot 20A, but decided not to submit a formal offer. So some additional background, and Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Caparisi, excuse me. We engaged your services in late 2013. Does that sound about right? Okay. To list these properties and several others along Michigan Ave. The city has owned these parcels, or actually only 20A is left, but we originally owned several parcels on East Michigan Ave. We have a Zippy's Car Wash that will be inaugurated very soon. I think last week you saw an email update pertaining to the Best Western Premier Hotel, as well as the Junga Ace Hardware, which is progressing. There's one lot outstanding, and as you saw from tonight's agenda and support materials, we have several interested parties, which is very exciting. These lots sat vacant for a number of years, but now we've been able to transfer several from public ownership to private ownership, add them to the tax rolls, see jobs created, and additional amenities and services for our residents. So I'm very excited to convene this meeting. Tony, I'm going to begin with you to provide an introduction to IHA, and then in about 40-45 minutes, provide an additional introduction for GBA. I think it would be helpful if both parties provided a little bit of background on who they are, some other projects they've created or completed, in recent years. Then we'll get into what they would like to do on Lot 20A, and subsequent to their presentation, we'll do a round robin and open up for questions. Sound good? Okay, and I would ask all of our guests to please speak into the microphone because we are recording tonight's meeting, and I believe it's being live streamed on Channel 18. So Tony, I'm going to begin with you, and if you want to borrow the microphone from that gentleman right there, that'd be terrific. Before I do that, though, Mr. Campbell, anything you'd like to add at this time? Okay, very good. Mr. Caparisi, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Morrow. I appreciate the time that council has taken tonight to go through this work session to review a couple of these letters of intent that we've recently received about 30 days ago. I've been working off and on with both of these parties, both IHA Medical and GBA Development, who have expressed different types of interest in Lot 20A. 6.5 acres, the last remaining lot facing Michigan Avenue. And each party came, as the mayor indicated, a month and a half ago, gave a preliminary presentation as to what they were thinking. They were each asked to go back, and if they had continued interest, to kind of fine-tune their presentations, their ideas, and to be prepared to come back to this evening's meeting with to go through a work session with council members. So without further ado, IHA is going to lead off this evening. We have about 40 minutes, I think is a good number. If we go over 5 minutes or so with questions and answers, that'll be just about right. This evening, we have Jason Harris, Vice President of Planning and Development with IHA, and IHA's architectural firm, Linhout & Associates, John Eckstein. So without that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. And again,
All right.
Appreciate you being here. Please be sure to speak into the microphone. This first presentation will take about 40-45 minutes. If you want to maybe present for about 20 or so, and then we'll work our way around the table and address any questions, concerns that council members have. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Excellent. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to discuss what we think is a very exciting project for the community of Saline. So we want to start with a little background about who IHA is, projects we've done in the past, sort of our mission, philosophy, and values to supplement the details of the project that we're proposing here today. So I'll start by just a brief background of IHA. So we are a medical group. So that means we employ doctors and offer primary care, specialty care, surgery. Most of the physicians at St. Joe's are IHA doctors. We began as a private practice 25 years ago in February, and really began as a primary care organization for the first 15 years or so of our history. And back in 2010, merged with Trinity Health. And it was at that point that we really began to expand the medical group into more specialty and subspecialty services. At that time, our mission was really to find a strong hospital partner. A medical group plus a strong hospital partner really saw as the best opportunity to integrate care and really create a coordinated system of care for patients. So since then, we've really grown quite rapidly. So I think the map shows where we're currently today. But just from a numbers perspective, we've gone from around 300 providers to over 650 in about the 8 or 9 years since we merged with Trinity. And we really continue or see that growth continuing. There's a shortage of primary care across both in this community, but then nationally and in Michigan as well. And we have very good systems for recruiting primary care physicians, building primary care practices, and offering really high quality primary care. So we're going to continue to grow, and our plan is to continue to do that. From a kind of core values perspective, so we use the acronym CARES. You'll see that on our websites, ihacares.com. But it stands for Commitment, Advocacy, Respect, Efficiency, and Service. At the end of the day, we are a physician-led enterprise. So our CEO is a doctor. Our board of 16, I'll say 14 of them are physicians. And so the clinical leaders are really the ones that are making decisions about what is best for patients and what's best for the communities we serve. And that remains highly focused on our patients. What is in the best interest of patients from a service, access, quality perspective. And so our focus really remains providing exceptional care. And as you'll see later, that goes beyond just evidence-based care, but into convenient access, affordability, and making sure we're sort of meeting patients where they are. So on the quality front, this is a major focus for us, part of our identity, part of our culture and philosophy. When we look at the quality as measured by health plans, here showing consumer reports, basically third parties that tell us how we're performing, we consistently see that we are performing top decile or even number one from the BCN quality perspective, which is what we and others in the industry typically use as a good measure of your quality. From a cost perspective as well, this remains a crucial part of offering healthcare services is affordability. And as costs continue to rise, we emphasize strong primary care, convenient access to reduce unnecessary ER visits, well-coordinated care after discharge from the hospital. So we have other nurses, pharmacists, behavioral health, which I'll kind of get into, that help prevent readmissions back to the hospital. Treating things not as aggressively as others might, or meaning not jumping immediately to high-tech radiology and more expensive services, but doing the more evidence-based kind of steps along the way, all with the idea of creating a more affordable system of care in our communities. And that maintains or that continues to be a major focus for us. High quality and low cost. The third pillar of that is the experience of care for patients. A major focus of ours is convenience. So we know the world is changing, and the doctor's office of 10 years ago is not the doctor's office of today. So many of our offices, I'd say most of our offices actually are open starting at 7 a.m. and open till around 7 p.m. Oftentimes we co-locate with urgent care. So at that same office, I can, in a sort of non-ER related emergency, but be seen up to 9 o'clock that day. We offer a guarantee of same-day access for our patients in primary care. So we have availability throughout the day to make sure people can be seen so that the sort of minor sore throat doesn't turn into something more serious that necessitates, more acute care. We also offer online scheduling. So I don't know, some of you may already be IHA patients and aware of these things, but you can schedule appointments online on your phone. For our urgent care, you can kind of call ahead online and save your spot. So when you show up, you don't wait. We offer e-visits for simple things that don't require you to come in. So you can not even leave your house and get the care that you need. A patient portal for medication refills, messaging your physician, and any other lab results and things like that. And then a call center that's open 24/7. So as someone with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and an IHA pediatrician, that call center has come in handy a number of times. And it's very well coordinated in that you're able to, in my instance, it was an earache at 3 in the morning, and you can get an appointment then scheduled the next day and know when that is and immediately come in. So it's all very connected and well coordinated when we offer the kind of medical center that we're talking about in Saline here. Another sort of key trend that we are leaders in is the concept of patient-centered medical home. So it's no longer just you and your doctor, but there is a team of clinicians behind that. So patients that need special or more care in certain areas have a team of professionals that they can work with. So it could be a dietitian, that could be a pharmacist, that could be a nurse care manager, or that could be a behavioral health specialist as well. And so it really allows the patient to get more of the care that they need and the physician to sort of extend their capabilities as well. And so we're implementing these models in all of our primary care offices and continuing to add other resources so that patients can go to the same office, same location, and get everything they need. So that really mirrors kind of what I've shared so far. All of this is sort of what you get in an IHA primary care office. And so when I talk about a IHA Saline Medical Center, this is all included. So we're talking about co-located urgent care, primary care, and then the care team that you see here today, online scheduling, e-visits, save your spot at urgent care. That all comes sort of part and parcel of an office. From a kind of history and track record perspective, so we have been developing new medical centers for 15, 20 years. I think, I don't know how long John's been working with, but probably 15 years or so, right? Since 2005, okay. I've listed a few of them here to show you kind of a picture of the size and scope of what these have been historically. So our most recent one is West Arbor, and that was our largest one so far. What we're proposing here is more in line with the kind of visuals you see over there of Howell and Pinckney, of something slightly smaller. But we do have a very strong track record of not only developing these sites, but then filling them with services, keeping them busy and full, and attracting patients to them as well. So the last thing I wanted to just sort of talk through is what the services that we would plan to offer at Saline would be. So I saw heads nodding as I was saying there's a shortage of primary care, in the community, although nationally as well. But when we look at Saline in particular, there is both a shortage and not a clear path of who else would be adding primary care to the community if not us. There's physicians that have retired in the past 3 to 5 years, and they've not really been replaced by any new physicians. And so when we look at our sort of ratios of how many doctors you should have for a population your size, Saline is well under those numbers. And so what we'd want to do is to add primary care so that the Saline community doesn't have to leave Saline to see their PCP. So what we would see is between 6 and 8 primary care physicians that we would be adding. That'd be across pediatrics, internal medicine, family medicine. And then we co-locate urgent care here. We'd have a lab and x-ray, sort of basic imaging and basic lab services. And that would all be co-located here. Typical hours might be 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's kind of standard for what our urgent care offerings would be. Including the urgent care, we'd end up with about 8 to 10 physicians, and that would imply about 24 to 30 staff members at that location. So that sort of summarizes a little background about IHA and our project. The other documents we shared then was a proposed site plan and letter of intent. And what we had shared in the earlier working session, we think this site has a lot of potential. The visibility off of US 12 offers a lot of advantages for patients that are looking for urgent care. And the visibility is a real draw for us. We know the entire lot is much larger than that. And our proposal is to purchase the frontage. And our drawing would indicate that the back would be available for development, and we would be happy to work with another developer to ensure that we're building the retention pond in such a way that the other development could use it. But our proposal would be to purchase the frontage here. And so the terms in our letter of intent there are included. And the site plan here is sort of an initial pass at the size building, meeting the parking requirements that are sort of required by ordinance, and then kind of our current understanding of where that road might cut through there as well. We've brought our drawings from both Howell and Pinckney. So Howell is a project that is we've broken ground and is in construction. It is almost identical to the same size and services that would be here. So it's a really good example of what something like this might look like. And that's slated to open in May or June of 2019.
Howell is to the left here.
Sorry, Howell's to the left and Pinckney is to the right there. And Pinckney is, again, similar in size, slightly bigger, and slated to open in September of 2019. But again, gives you a concept of what the general look and feel of our buildings are, general materials, so that'd be tuned to any ordinance requirements you had, of course. But gives you an idea of the kind of quality that we put into our buildings. Is there anything you'd like to kind of add to either the site plan or the?
I can tell you a little bit about the.
Make sure you have the microphone there.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
My name's John Eckstein with Lindau Associates, and I've been fortunate enough to work with IHA since 2005. Great organization. Everything they do is patient-driven, and we try to take that on as the architect. First of all, trying to take care of the patient, and then secondly, taking care of the people that take care of the people. So it's always been a very exciting project, taking it into consideration. It's different nowadays because you start online, but taking it from that point on, we need it so that the patient, when they're driving down the road, it needs to be apparent, where am I going? So frontage is important to us. The look of the building is important to us. Signage is going to be very important to us. This is based very similarly as the Howell project, in that when the patient enters into the site, they need to know, it seems so basic, but they need to know where the front door is. You get to some medical facilities, now given this is a smaller scale, so it shouldn't be as big of an issue, but you sometimes can have multiple entries and they all look the same and you don't know where you're coming or going, and especially when you have an older patient base. So that's we take into consideration. We like to have, if not a covered drop-off, some type of canopy so that somebody that might need assistance won't get wet. So we have a drop-off shown there to be determined if we do a full canopy or just a cantilever type canopy. We always have the automatic doors for patients that are in wheelchairs. And as you see, everything is centralized. We have one check-in. And so if you look at the Howell plan here, and if I can just talk loud, I can kind of walk you through it. But what we've done over time is developed a pod concept. So in the exam rooms where you see the colors, each color is 3 exam rooms. That represents 1 doctor and an MIA and a scribe, or a doctor and 2 MAs. And so it's an open floor plan, so that allows for flexibility. So on this floor plan, it's mostly internal medicine and family medicine throughout the space. The lower blue level is the urgent care. So they have different hours, and they also have an x-ray room off to the side. But what that allows for is on a weekend, if by chance they come to realize that urgent care is in high demand over the weekends, it's open floor plan, it's all IHA, they can flow into the next pods. And we were also starting to incorporate the team-based care. So we have the front of the house, from the patient experience, they're gonna come into a nice waiting room, have 1 point of check-in, and then they'll be escorted to their exam room. The back of house is becoming, design is changing. We don't have, each physician doesn't get his own office. They don't work that way anymore. We have what we call team-based, where we have various types of modular furniture where they can interact with their MAs. And then also other physicians at the back of house. And if you get an opportunity to tour something like West Arbor down the road, we'd love to take you on a tour. We could show you, like, from the staff experience, they give them a nicer staff room to go back, and little areas where they can have intimate conversations. So we'd welcome that at any time. And then in terms of material, with the smaller buildings, pretty consistently, all of our buildings are brick building. It's timeless, and it has some stature to it. That would be our intent with this one. With our smaller projects, that's the direction we're going. It's we're using the same brick on both projects. We're using the same cast stone. We've introduced a curve element that we're trying to make, for lack of a better term, our golden arches, although it'll look a little bit nicer than golden arches. Just so that there's some consistency, so that when people drive by, they know it's an IHA facility. I think that's about it. I think that's about it.
We have at least one other associate in the room. Any other comments before we open it up for questions? You're good. Thank you, gentlemen. That was very thorough. Just for your benefit, for GBA Development's benefit, and for my council colleagues, we won't be developing consensus this evening. It's an opportunity to hear your remarks and to share questions and concerns. This will be added as a discussion item. The sale of Lot 20A will be added as a discussion item at our next council meeting, which is on September the 10th, at which time I would hope to develop consensus on how to move forward. And if there's a preference by a majority of council, then we would empower staff and legal counsel to work out the terms of the sales agreement. That gives council ample time in the next, actually 3 weeks, to direct any additional questions they have to Mr. Campbell or another member of staff. Sound good?
Sound good.
Very good. Mr. Seal, can I start with you for questions for these two gentlemen?
Certainly, sir. I'm somewhat confused. Are these competing?
Yes. GBA and IHA?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Two separate proposals for
The
Lot
same
28.
piece of property.
Correct.
Okay. Would this replace the current St. Joe urgent care out there on West or East Michigan Avenue that operates now?
Yeah, so those conversations are sort of internally still in the making, but we wouldn't have two urgent cares in the same community, so likely yes.
Okay. How would you staff this with the medical staff? Which doctors would come here?
So what we usually do is so the culture of our practices is really important to us, and so whenever we start a new practice, we start with existing physicians, so that have been in our practices, are looking for a leadership opportunity, and they seed our practices. So likely we would look for physicians that already have patients that are in Saline. So perhaps they're in Ann Arbor today, or Clinton for that matter, but likely Ann Arbor. They would seed the practice and be the site medical director, and then we'd recruit new doctors behind them.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Seal, thank you. Mr. Har, I know you've had an opportunity to engage with these gentlemen before, but do you have any additional questions?
Yes, I do. Just one. Is this working? Sort of. Okay. Okay. So You mentioned in, I believe it was 2010, the merger with Trinity Health. And so my question relates to the range of health care. Because Trinity Health has a religious affiliation basis, are there limitations on the range of health care that is offered because of that affiliation, specifically health care for women?
We follow the ethical and religious directives as part of IJ.
Thank you.
Mr. Gearbaugh?
Just a couple questions, a little more of a history. You were in Saline at one point in time, correct?
At the time, it was a St. Joe's facility. There's a med-peds practice there. So it wasn't IHA at the time, but yes, there was a primary care presence here before.
And the reason they relocated was primarily the drawing of patients or something?
Well, it was a combination of things. So I believe it was around probably 6 or 7 years ago. But the one location of the practice, second was the physicians practicing there and their sort of clinical interests and geographies themselves. And I guess the location ties into this, but the kind of current financial state of the practice all contributed to that practice kind of relocating to different IJ practices.
And then the other thing, knowing that you are a nonprofit organization, and I think we've discussed this issue, knowing that this is a nonprofit organization, this would impact the revenue that would come into the city. I don't know how that would be addressed from the perspective of, we would be giving up that type of situation to support this. We've done that previously with the other hospital, I believe, but this is a different function for us at this point. So is there any idea of how you would handle that? And currently, how do you handle that in your other organizations?
So although we are a nonprofit, we don't own our real estate. So the projects you see here are all a third-party developer that owns them. And so given the organization that owns them is for-profit, even though all the activity is nonprofit, typically that's a third-party developer and the city or township have an agreement about what those property taxes are going to be. So it's not zero. There's still, it's on the tax rolls from the city's perspective.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Ms. Dillon?
Thank you. I've got 3 young kids, so I'm kind of a frequent flyer to West Arbor.
Oh, all
so,
right. Hopefully we treat you well.
So, yes. I guess, looking at this, is this going to be the smallest building that you have in your fleet? Is Howell the same size?
Yeah, Howell's going to be the same size.
It's going to be the same size?
There are a couple smaller practices around too.
Are
Yeah.
there? Okay. Because I've been to Milan, and it's going to be half the size of Milan. So
Yeah, we're actually not using most of I'd say about a third of the space in Milan. We're still waiting to grow into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Do you have any vision for the back property?
We do not. So we were presenting this as we're willing to and happy to work with you all on whatever might make sense back there. We can certainly design our site to accommodate whatever might make sense back there too. But we don't have any particular plans for it at this point.
Could I just clarify?
Yes.
I believe if I understand correctly, the IHA is proposing a land subdivision, whereas they purchased 3.5 of the 6.5 acres, with the remaining 3 acres still owned by the city for some potential future development.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you so much. So that, I just want to confirm the information that you gave to Ms. Dillon. So the actual use of the property would be the 3.5 acres, and the remaining, is it 6? I can't remember, the whole part, the remaining 3 is going to be retained by the city. Is that correct? So in your offer, the purchase price of $125K per acre, that's really per 3 acres? 3.5, okay. I don't need this question answered here, but to me, the idea of the retention pond on this preliminary site plan, to me, it raises questions. Is that going to limit development of the property? That's one of my concerns that I'll have for city staff. Let's see. I don't think I have. I just want to make a note. So I come from health administration, and I worked in patient experience at St. Joe. So full disclosure, one of the things that I think about, just as a note to the architect, I think about patient privacy with that modular furniture and the meetings of physicians. Patient privacy is an issue for me at the current urgent center because the front desk is very close to the waiting room, and the intake staff are asking pretty personal questions, and it just feels very exposed. So I'm just going to put that out there as somebody who's worked in patient experience. But other than that, I certainly understand the importance of, as we grow as a community, we need to offer more than movie theaters and restaurants. We need to offer a full experience to families moving here. So I appreciate.
Thank you. As someone that also has 3 kids and that are IHA patients, I appreciate the idea that I wouldn't have to leave town. So, one question about the frontage. Do you foresee any MDOT issues, or maybe this is for staff? Do we foresee any MDOT issues with having another curb cut on Michigan Ave there?
They would have to apply for it, but presumably that they would meet the requirements, just like the other development has.
Okay. And then Mr. CEO asked my other question about the existing urgent care. So that was all I had. Thank you.
One last opportunity for questions. Mr. CEO, please.
So if I read your proposal right, you would intend to put the retention pond on a portion of property you did not buy, and that the city would still be responsible for maintenance and for payment of the maintenance of the retention pond?
Right. I'd say to add to that, the kind of location of the retention pond, really in terms of planning out this entire site, this is one way of doing that, but we would be wanting to work with you on what the use might be here, and how you'd like us to work with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Additional questions? Ms. Dillon?
Thank you. Very quickly, are all of your constructions new constructions, or do you do any rehabs of?
We also do, I'm working on one right now in Clinton, so we do both rehab, we'll renovate existing if we can find the right space, or we'll build new if we can.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Last call for questions, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you. Ms. McClelland asked a question about frontage. I was taking a quick peek at these different locations that you have in your PowerPoint. The Cherry Hill, Domino's Farms, very familiar with Domino's Farms. So Domino's and IHA Milan are off main roads. They're kind of tucked back. What is I understand that what you said about the signage being important, but how important is access as long as you have proper signage? Like, if the signage is correct, we can get you to where you need to be. So why this frontage rather than something else?
I think it's a little extra, right? So now you have not only signage, but the building, and you get extra visibility from that. That's really the, increasingly, a Domino Farms is more of a destination. It's so large, there's so many services there that location-wise, our interest was in making it convenient, easy to access. as we look at developing these smaller health centers that are, largely primary care and urgent care, they're somewhat still destinations in that your primary care physician is there, but they do move more into the retail sort of space as well. We're trying to attract people that are driving by and seeing that we offer urgent care services there. So the frontage there is important for us. In addition to signage, we really do want to have frontage on US 12.
So I appreciate what you're saying, and at the same time, the retention pond and the city retaining that property doesn't, to me, have parity with your interest in the frontage. So that will be a concern for me, is that, if you want this type of real estate, you may have to give on that, and, it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the council members react to that. But my feeling is, if the frontage is so important to you, if that's extra, then we need to see a return of some kind on that. So I'll be interested to talk with people over the next few weeks.
Okay.
I appreciate you being here.
Sure.
One last opportunity for questions. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Very thorough presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you for attending. We'll let you take your stuff, and we'll make a transition to welcoming the folks from GBA to the dais. Gentlemen, you ready? Mr. Caprisi? Yep. PowerPoint's good to go? Yeah. Okay. You guys have any water? I'll get you glass. Make sure to test that mic for me.
Testing. Right here? Testing.
Tony, as soon as you're ready, if you want to provide some introductions, then we'll turn it over to these gentlemen.
Yes, certainly. Thank you. Thanks for your time and excellent questions on our last presentation. And now we'd like to introduce the second group who has submitted a letter of intent. GBA Development, we have with us Matthew Attard, Michael Babby, and George Goulson, all principals with GBA Development. So with that, I will turn it over to Matt, or Mike, who's going to take the lead on that.
I don't think
Matt.
it's communicating. It's stuck on that page. Let me see.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, we're good. So just a brief introduction about us. We we're doing national expansion with a lot of restaurant chains. We own the brands. We're doing a lot of new emerging concepts. We deal with national brands that are already established in the marketplace. Our concept of looking at this piece of property, we love Saline because it's an underserved market. We know you guys need eating options and whatnot. Our proposal is to buy the whole piece of property, develop the whole thing. We have some concepts for the back half, but we're open. So we want to, come into agreement and alignment with you guys as far as how we develop the back half. George Golson, he's a principal. He's been in the food industry for over 30 years, and he brings a lot of those resources and contacts. Two of our other members of our corporation partners are very currently well connected. They're a part of our sister company, which is acquiring brands, taking them to scale on a national level. One in which is Brian Stevens. You may have seen him on Undercover Boss. He was the president of Marco's Pizza Corporation. Another would be Cameron Cummings, and he was CMO of Yum and many other food brands. So our core focus and the reason why GBA development even exists is to meet the demand of QSR development nationwide, to take our brands to scale, to integrate other brands into our centers that make sense. And my experience and Michael's experience, he's got a legal mind. We've both been in real estate development for over 20 years, and it kind of runs in my family. It's kind of within my blood. Just lost my brother-in-law, but he's been involved in large scale, and I've collaborated with him over the years. And he's left behind his right-hand man to me, who's going to be our CEO. I should say Chief Construction Officer, who's going to run all our development and whatnot. But to dig into what we want to do, we would like to take the front half and do a center that's got cutting-edge design. It's a little bit more modern. It's going to be a little bit more cutting edge. We'd like to do a drive-through. We'd like to cut curbs into our center, do a drive-through that would wrap around on the other side here. Architect had a hiccup. We didn't have time to change it, but traffic would flow this way around the building. And our idea would be to put a coffee concept there, but we're open on that. We can put whatever mixture of tenants and food that you guys want to see there. But we like coffee because your only other coffee brand that's here is Big B. So we see an opportunity there, doing a coffee brand. I think that would be a good pair to the Imagine Theaters across the street, as well as the other concepts we're going to put in. The other one is a brand that we actually we've made a minority investment into, and we want to take it to national scale. We're currently focused on the Ohio market, but because Saline's position and geography to Ohio is so strategic, it would be a great place to put one in Michigan. It's like a Korean fusion with a southwestern flair, and it's interesting. It's farm-to-table concept. So it's predominantly focusing on the organic, healthier way of living, a fast casual. So it's a sit-down. So it's not just, you go in and you leave. It's a sit-down concept. The other concept we had, and, we talked to the mayor, you like the burger concept and whatnot. We have two. We have one that we have ownership in that we're going to take to scale. We're kind of slow on growing them to the Midwest. They're on the East Coast in the Boston area. They're performing very well. They on their own took a brand new location in DC, and it was ill-advised. We didn't recommend that they did it, but they did it on their own. So we're trying to work out where we're going to expand them. We're trying to stay on the East Coast where they're comfortable. So that concept may not work, but we have another national brand. We have no ownership in. They're Hollywood backed. So there's probably only one. And I'll let you guys, piecemeal the rest together. I think they would have interest in being in Saline. They have one other in Michigan that they're opening up now. Our co-partner in the emerging brands is going to be meeting with them on Wednesday. So we're going to discuss this site. So if you guys want a burger concept that's sit down, we like bringing them to the center if they agree to it, because it would give a lot of exposure to Saline. We think it would be phenomenal for Saline. Phenomenal for our center too. So the back half, I want to dig in to the rest of the site plan. This is kind of what we propose. Keep in mind it's conceptual. You know, we want to do the freestand retail here. If our burger concept wanted a freestand, we could easily do it, offset it, do it behind. We've looked at the site, and it's going to need a lot of backfill. It's going to need about $300K in backfill to build it up. So to make that back half developable, you know, to attractive to other, you know, to other tenants, we're going to have to build that up quite a bit. You know, we're open to doing the medical thing as well. I mean, you know, we're more than welcome to buying the whole parcel and, you know, opening that up to a medical facility that wants to come in the back half. But we see Saline as being completely underserved with grocery. And we'd like to try to have a smaller grocer in the back half. We have a lot of connections and contacts with national brands. We think it'd be a very good fit for the center, doing our food up front, doing a small grocer in back, a national grocer, not a local yokel, a national grocer that's more of non-GMO based, let's say. And next to it, our concept and our idea, and it's just a thought process, we're not hard on any of this, would be like a swim school. So for example, like Aqua Tots or a Goldfish. And then over here, depending upon where we do the cross access, we thought maybe a trampoline park would go well too in the center, in the back half. So digging into the cross access, we were a little bit pressed for time. Our architect was not able to get in touch with you guys and get clear on how you guys want the cross access. We like cross access like that. But if that doesn't work, we're more than happy to design what does. I think a straight shot across works best into the existing ingress and egress. Another, you know, just thought process behind it would be that. We don't really like that, but we're willing to do whatever works for the center. And then a third concept would be, you know, taking the existing building that we have here that we proposed and setting it back a bit and then doing more of a swoop around the detention pond. So, I mean, that in a nutshell is kind of what we want to do with it. And we'd love to work with you guys and make it a viable center.
Your colleagues, associates care to add anything before we open it up for questions? Gentlemen?
I'm good.
You're good?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Matt's touched bases on most of it here, but we feel that this type of plaza, what we want to bring there is a community base. We want something that people will want to come to and something that will stay thriving in the city for a long time. And, you know, it's important to us that we bring in brands that will do that. And it's not something that's short-lived and something that, you know, the city can do well with for a long time to come as well, so.
Very good. Okay. We'll open it up for questions. I started with Mr. Steele the last time. Let's start on the opposite end with Councilwoman McClellan.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of, so you're thinking the building with the frontage would be the burger place, and then the rest is just
Could
sort
be.
of filling
We would like
in?
to have that center with 3 tenants, 3 concepts.
Okay.
Food, beverage, food. And then burger concept potentially on an end cap. It'd be on the bigger side of things. Non-drive-through end cap. They're not a drive-through based burger joint. But if it's not big enough, and if they want a freestand, we would restructure the site plan to accommodate them. And the design would be just as equally modern, cutting edge, and very nice.
And then do we have like firm plans with the burger place, or we don't, we're just
We don't.
kind of
I mean,
wondering?
the mayor likes it, and we can provide it. We have a meeting on Wednesday, it's kind of hard to do this on a conceptual basis. Once we get into contract, we can get firm on what is going to go in there. We can't say, hey, we're going to offer you X when we don't have it. We're doing this based on our relationships, which we can do. We have very good ones. And we're having those talks and meetings without being in contract with the city.
And the demographics are there, so we're not just guessing.
Yeah, the traffic counts are there. It's underserved as far as the food. There's a lot of brands that don't exist in Saline, which is attractive to us. The income base is there. The population density for 3-mile radius is there. So for us, this is what we look for nationally. Your demographics are what we look for nationally.
So you're looking at national brands for the most?
Yes, and then some emerging.
Gotcha. And I guess so your first choice would be the straight cut through, and then, so walk me through, this is the retention pond then?
Yeah.
And then this is sort of the
It's
shopping
conceptual.
center?
We need to get firm on, how you guys want to see it and where that retention pond actually is.
Okay, and then this is more of a freestanding something, whether it's
Yes.
a restaurant or
That'll
whatever.
be a
that's-
multiple.
That's a multiple tenant. That's what you saw in the
This is a-
rendering.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the rendering on
Okay.
the front.
Okay. Okay. And I don't know, I mean, coffee, we do have other places besides Big B's. I'm not sure if you're aware, we have Brewed Awakenings, Kerrigan's,
I
Benny's,
looked
and
it up, yeah.
a few other ones, so. And Tim Hortons, yes, so just wasn't sure if you were aware of that. So I think that's it for me for right now. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Councilwoman McClellan. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you. So I knew that this was coming. I think, we got the theater, we got the hotel, and these are exciting prospects.
Yeah.
And I think it is good that we have time because we have to decide how we want to grow.
Right.
So we have a small town vibe in our downtown area where my 14-year-old daughter can walk to the cafe, the
Yeah.
coffee shop downtown. They know her, she can run a tab, and they know I'll come in and pay it, and I never let it run more than 24 hours.
Right.
Like, that's the kind of small-town experience we're used to.
Yeah.
I have heard residents say that they want a Panera. They want, I'm sure that there is a population. I believe you when you say you've done the demographics and that this is missing. I don't think I have questions about your offer. I appreciate that your offer was very detailed. And I think it's just time to talk to residents and think. I'm having a little trouble. I could hear what you were describing, but I'm having trouble telling which building is what. So for me, it would be helpful to clarify. I totally get that this is like preliminary, conceptual.
Sure.
But just how it would work. And I'm also interested when you said, hey, we could play with the medical group. Like, we're prepared to do that.
And we're open to that.
Right. And I think that is meaningful to me because, as I stated before, as a community, we need to offer everything. So, I'm definitely interested. I'm interested in learning more. I'll be talking to residents, and I'm looking forward to having the idea develop over the next few weeks.
And just to clarify, so in looking at this, this would be
The three tenants.
the 3 tenants with the drive-through.
Okay.
This would be the grocer.
Okay.
This would be the swim school, conceptually. This would be trampoline.
Okay, I'm sorry, once more, the swim pool, not in the retention ponds,
So,
right?
no, absolutely
Just a
not.
little joke, just a
Final
joke.
That's the final
Liability there,
test.
too much
Safety
tax
first,
rate.
kids, okay. That's the, okay, oh, I see, all right, food store, and then a
So
possible
next to it,
swim.
correct.
And
Swim
that's,
school.
okay, that would be more to near the entrance?
Yes.
Okay, and you're aware that the city has a rec center, that this would actually be a competing interest with the city? Just so you're aware that we're thinking
Okay.
about all these things, because we have a rec center with a
And it's a
pool.
proposal too.
It's a proposal.
Correct.
If you guys don't like
Just-
it, it's just a way of,
Just giving you the FYI,
Yeah.
what you do with it is entirely yours. So, okay, and then commercial recreation, that could conceptually be the trampoline.
Yes.
And then this rest of the parcel, that's 19A, that's the hotel.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you have the car wash in front,
Okay,
and then you have the Ace and then the
There.
hotel off to
got
the
it.
right.
So if you were to look at a medical complex, it would be within this complex?
Yeah,
Is that
it'd
right?
have to be on the back side of the lot. We need the frontage
Right.
for retail, so it doesn't make, if, for example, if we were to do the flip adverse, if the medical building took the front side, then it would just totally squash any kind of retail option.
Shut down, because you want to get the traffic
Yeah.
in. Okay, all right, I'll be looking forward to mulling this over. Thank you, I don't have any
Thanks.
more questions.
Ms. Dillon?
Thank you very much. I was also a bit confused as to what went where. So just for clarification, you would use Michigan Avenue as an access point for your drive-through?
Yeah.
And are you not encouraging people to parlay through the entire complex? Your cut-through is going into the existing shopping center?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So you're just cutting through to sort of connect into that?
exactly.
Property?
Which
Okay.
would go directly across the food store, grocery, as well as what we're conceptually saying, family entertainment.
And there'd be
as
a
well.
cut at Michigan Avenue as well.
Yeah.
That would be your primary-
Right, yeah, I can see that you have a cut there. I just didn't know whether you were looking as that as being more of your access for your frontage, and then your access point for your back buildings utilizing.
It's
get the
a
exhaust.
challenging site because of the shape.
Right.
So we can't really figure out a better way to do it. I mean, we're open to suggestions, but, looking at the site and really spending some time on it, this is the best way to do it.
Right, no, I understand that. I have a question, it's gonna probably go for Mr. Campbell. The retention pond, is that strictly for this property? No, but it's not a shared with one of the other parcels?
Correct.
Okay. And so it could be relocated, or is it, that's just their best choice of where they've chosen?
That's at least
Okay,
conceptually, that's where they've chosen.
okay. So we haven't told them that's where it has to be, and they're
Correct.
working around that? Okay. Just trying to figure that. And there is no longer an access point on Sauk Trail Road? Is there? Like, remember how it used to have the dead end?
Right,
Is
the
that
beach-
still there,
Well, so the,
or whatever that road was called?
yeah, beach court. So the idea was that with the other two, and specifically with the Hotel Ace, that they would allow that joint connection there, so then people would be able to utilize their entrance, their ingress egress that goes right from the south side of their site onto that beach court.
Okay.
That would funnel out onto South Industrial.
So would this property then still have access to that?
Yes.
Okay.
So the connection,
I think, is that the zigzag?
right here, so for instance, this slide,
Okay,
so they would connect into their parking area in the hotel,
okay.
and that would provide a road access.
So they're accessing another property if there isn't still an independent roadway that goes all the way across? to-
Right, that's what this would be right here. They would put that in as the developer,
Right.
and that would join into the parking area, which was also with the parking aisles, if you will, right? That provides a route throughout the hotel site as well.
Okay. Is there any issue with diverting traffic over another property? Because
I think Roger's got this.
Yeah, Councilman, maybe a good way to think of it is what there would be under this new situation is more like a service drive through a business area as opposed to a public street. It's no longer, that part of the public street was vacated, but then by easement, the opportunity for a service drive is vacated.
okay, so people are not going to be driving through the Ace parking lot?
Well, where you see that red designation on that map,
Right.
that would be an area where people could drive through and a service drive to.
Okay, And who owns that service drive?
It's private property that's subject to easement, so it's not the city that owns it. But there is an easement for ingress, egress.
Okay.
Mr. Campbell, would you like to
Okay.
grab the microphone?
Might clarify. The way these properties have been marketed, and this started with the Zippies and then ran into the hotel and Ace Hardware. The intention there is to have a cross-access easement through all three properties, 18, 19, and 20, or 18A, 19A, and 20A, connected with the Oaks. So there's currently a stub road on the east end of the Oaks parking lot behind the Renew Spa.
Right.
So the beginning point of that red line is coming out of the Oak Shopping Center.
Right.
And how it gets through Lot 20A, whether it's a direct route or it meanders, will totally depend on ultimately what the final layout is based on their end users and how they develop structures on that property, where they end up putting the retention pond and so forth. Currently, Zippy's and the Ace store and the hotel already have cross-access easements between their properties that permit public traffic to cross through those properties and to egress out that bottom right corner of the hotel property out onto Salt Trail Court and then out to
Industrial.
South Industrial, back out to Michigan Avenue. So the intention there was to provide, and these are not public roads, these are service drives,
Right.
as the attorney had described them, to allow continuous flow of traffic, although not necessarily a direct flow, from the Oaks through and behind those three lots, and then to egress out onto Salt Trail Court.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. I guess my next question for you, and it's probably my last, is what's the tipping point for you? Is your basket full at the road, and you've got a lot more flexibility in the back?
Yes.
As to, like, are you just, we need a grocery store, we need this, we need that?
We're
You're
flexible
very
on the back.
flexible in
Yeah,
that?
we're very, very flexible, as long as it makes sense. I mean,
Right.
It has to make sense for us too, so.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know, we're more flexible on the back half. We're very hard on the frontage. We gotta
Right.
do our retail concepts.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Gearbox?
Yeah, this layout, I do like the idea of the mixed use because I think that's going to be the best purpose for this property. And however that you can accomplish that will be the most appropriate way. The one thing I do want to understand is how do you see phasing this? Are you going to just do the front part first and then the second until you have demand, or are you going to do it all at once? Because I would hate to have that one section
We'll
set
have
for a
the
period.
front part 100% occupied before putting a shovel in the ground.
Okay.
And, once we get into contract, if we can, execute leases with the rest of it, and we can run it by you guys first, give you a heads up what we're trying to do for the back half. If we can successfully bring the other corporate tenancies for the back, we'd like to do that too, but we're open. So we would, I think, what makes sense for the city and us is that if you guys like the retail and the frontage, we would do that first. And we're not trying to sit on it. We would definitely go vertical with it as soon as possible.
Because that's one of the things that we want to make sure that how we do this is basically it stays with the same developer. I'd hate to have this being split up and reassigned, and
Right.
if you finish one component and then phase it out and try and
Correct.
sell it to someone else, that's not something I'm looking forward to have
We're
done.
open, if you guys want to have the medical center, we're open to ground leasing the back half, and they can use their own developer.
I like the idea, though, that you mentioned of the grocery store, because we don't have enough, and if you had something like a Fresh Market or whatever the other ones are,
We've
that
done
would.
our research, we see that, and we see that some national grocery chains would more than likely be interested. One specifically, I'm not gonna talk about it, but, one specifically we love, and we think that they would love it too.
Good. The only other thing, when you look at the detention pond or retention, you could consider, and we've done this on some other properties, about the engineered one, with burying the tanks in the ground and that type of thing. I don't know if that'll provide more potential buildable space or whatever else, but I know cost-wise would be a part of the factor, but
Right.
that is one thing that we've done on some other properties and
Right.
looking at that being a different approach, especially considering that this is probably a very valuable piece of property in a location that's probably the last spot in the town. So we
Yeah.
know it's very much a
Yeah.
buildable lot, and whatever you can do to make it
Right.
the best and bring in the most business, I think that's kind of what we're looking for, or at
I
least
think
I.
that would ultimately depend on what we can agree on.
And for us, the council works as a whole group, so what one person might like may
Right.
not be what the rest of the council likes. So we're looking to try and come to a consensus on how we
Right.
would want to see come in. So whatever we can do in terms of like a restaurant that's a family-oriented type thing that competes, not necessarily with what's downtown, but
Right.
provides the services that we want to have for individuals, for their family and thing. And I think I mentioned this prior when we were talking initially, so. Yeah, I think what we got coming forward looks like a good idea, so I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hart?
Thank you. My question, my questions have all actually been asked, except I have a little different spin. So how important is it to you to develop the back half? Or are you really just interested in developing the front? And
I mean,
you could sit on the back half
We
and
see-
still
we
achieve
see
your
the
goals?
Opportunity in developing that back half. It's valuable to us because we're paying money for it. And we're not just, trying to, buy 6 acres to develop a 3-4 tenant retail center on the front. We would like to see the whole entire thing synergized, and we're all about synergy. So we want to junior anchor the site. It doesn't make any sense just to do the frontage without somehow synergizing an anchor. Medical could work. I mean, it's bringing people there, families and whatnot. What we're proposing is going to bring a lot of traffic to that center, which enhances our brands. I mean, we're invested in these. We want to make sure they're successful.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is, what is your experience with working? So in this case, you would be working with the owners of the Oaks and the tenants perhaps, but the owners of the Oaks and the owner of the Ace Hardware and the hotel. So what's your experience with traffic flow and working out that kind of cooperation?
I mean, I think if it makes sense and it's going to provide cross-traffic to their center, it's synergistic if we're bringing in the kind of tenants that they want to see as well.
Have you had, it may be too soon for this, have you had any discussions with either?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Seo?
You talk about a drive-through for the restaurant, or for the coffee anyway.
Exactly.
So would that US 12 cut be both ingress and egress?
Yeah.
Okay, so there'd only be one 12 cut,
Right.
or one cut on US 12?
Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, you're going to be the developer owner, or would
Yeah.
you develop and sell?
We don't know. That's a good question. We would definitely be the developer and owner, first of all. We do package these up and sell them off to pension funds and REITs and whatnot as well.
Okay, right.
So anybody that we would sell it off to is going to be an institutional type entity.
And our concern in the past has been maintenance of the public areas, like the parking lot especially.
Yeah.
Some of the other larger places, some of the parking lots tend to get neglected
Yeah.
once they're built. And they do require maintenance, especially if it's asphalt.
Right. And, that's what cams are for. So we charge for it.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing further, Mr. Seo? Additional questions? Ms. McClellan, do you have one? Then I'll jump
Yeah.
to Ms. Mitchell.
I do. What are your other, your past history on developing other sites as far as retaining retail or restaurant? Or, do you have a turnover? I would hate to see, let's say a grocer come in, and a grocer comes in and then it's taking from someplace else in town, and then a store gets shuttered in another center, and then we have all these empty strip malls I know it's not a strip mall, but for lack of a better word. So what is your
We never-
track record with turnover and
We
making
never-
sure there's tenants?
We never try to cannibalize a market. So we're very careful to understand what the market needs and provide that. So for example, with grocery, you guys don't have enough. I think we can all kind of agree. I mean, maybe some of you disagree. But, Bush's and Walmart are it. is dealing with more of the foodies and vegans and, families, non-GMO products and whatnot. So it's not going to so much take from Bush's, and it's not going to take from Walmart. I mean, nobody takes from Walmart. But, ultimately, I would say it would enhance the food experience.
So do you have, like situations where, a tenant leaves and then you have an empty store for a certain period of time? How do you retain?
I mean, as far as the retail is concerned, I mean, not really. I mean, the store closure rate for these brands is very, we're dealing with very, very stable brands. The emerging stuff, if we have a problem with the store, we'll replace it immediately.
Okay.
I mean, we don't make money without people paying rent. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you have an estimate on the number of jobs? Or it would be such a rough estimate, but do you have an estimate on the number of jobs, a range?
It would be significant, but I don't want to say because I have not done formal research. We can definitely pull that together and do it for you. In the conceptual stage that we're in right now, we're not doing those hard facts as far as, what, this is conceptual in the back half, so it's kind of hard for us to compile that data.
But there
We want to
must.
see what your appetite is first.
If I could jump, if you look at the brands and the average employee rates that
Exactly.
they'll hold, I mean, if you look at a front end of this, you're probably looking at an average of 15 to 20 employees per store, and then you're looking at a food minimum of 30 to say 45, and then if you look at these types of swim or trampoline parks, you're looking at an average, say, 20 to 50, depending on the volume. So, I mean, quick math, I mean, you're looking at over 100 jobs easily. I mean,
That's what I was
Yep.
thinking, we're just a rough.
just a rough.
Right. And then, when you said that you tend to, and I have it in my notes somewhere, you tend to own, develop, sometimes you sell, sometimes you retain. You gave us a number of projects in your bio, and I'm seeing a lot of schools. There was a church, there's a casino. I'm trying to look at an equitable piece of property in your bio that we have here. Is there anything, should I focus on any certain page?
I mean, we can provide you with some projects that would be more similar.
So I'm just wondering, in this type of situation, what does your history show? Do you tend to stay and own, or do you tend to sell?
It's 50-50.
Okay.
Excuse me, I might add that I put up hundreds of concepts over my 30 years in the business. So I definitely have a vast background in that.
You want to provide us some of those, that might be beneficial.
Sure.
Concepts that are similar in size and scope to what you're proposing here for Lot 28.
Yeah, we can do that.
I guess my only question/comment would be, this thoroughfare, totally get it, have been completely lost in parking lots that connect buildings before, so looking forward to that. Approximately how long would that road be? Mr. Campbell, do you have an idea? Like, so if we're connecting the Oaks to, how far would it be from, say, if a car left the Oaks to where the car would enter the hardware, like approximately? I've got it on Google Maps, but I don't know. I'm just wondering, are there traffic concerns? Are we going to have, I mean, that's so getting ahead of the game, but that's one of the things I think about, and that a long road like that, while convenient, there may need some.
Think of the Bush complex. that's
Right.
connected to the Dollar General one, maybe that similar type of, I think. business
And that curves, like people have to drive slowly, hopefully. So,
I mean, roughly, it would be over 600 feet if you take a look at the two.
okay.
If you take a look at the frontage, I mean, it gets a
Oh,
little bit
thank you.
wider towards the back.
You have to
It'd be over
add.
600 feet.
So then, I guess my final question is, what is your thought about public spaces, public gathering? Obviously, these are independent retailers, and it's a different feel than like a public space in Detroit. But I also see, I think of the complex in front of the Ann Arbor Saline Road Myers that went up. They have a fountain, there are lines out the door, often days, and I just think about, that's something that would be attractive to me as part of the package. Just a quick heads up, is some type of gathering space. It does not have to be large, but something that sets it aside from everything else that you might see in other suburbs. So with that, I'll pass.
Gentlemen, let me share a few remarks. And first, Tony, please extend our thanks to the folks from IHA. That was a very thorough presentation. And needless to say, there would be a number of tangible benefits having them in the city of Saline. As it relates to this proposal, and I'm going to repeat some of the things that I expressed when we met a month and a half back, is attracting some fast casual restaurants to the front portion of 20A seems prudent to me. Again, I put a very strong emphasis on aesthetic and design, and I like what you're proposing here, and I think the first or second page of your PowerPoint. I think when we met before, I referenced Shake Shack on Big Beaver that Mr. CEO and I passed when we were at a SEMCOG conference. So a brand that has a really good buzz going for it, offers high-quality products, and you're very familiar with that site. That's a really well-designed building with a nice gathering space, very attractive landscaping. That's something I would like to mirror in Saline. I think Mr. Gearbaugh touched on this. This lot has a lot of strategic significance. And so I think offering the kind of amenities and services that you're proposing, I think that's a good fit. So I just wanted to state that for the record, because that will be my emphasis moving forward is, of course, in addition to the jobs, the amenities, the additional revenue, it's the look and the feel, enhancing the quality of life in our community.
Thanks.
Yep. Mr. Caparisi, please.
Yeah, if I may just add something I think that might be helpful. I believe it was Ms. Mitchell who questioned IHA about the requirement for them to have the front Michigan Avenue position versus why not push it to the rear. And they, I think, expressed in no uncertain terms tonight that their priority, their requirement is, in fact, for that front position. Now, I would say that subsequent to our first meeting in which we had met with IHA, GBA, and a third party, following that meeting, I was directed by the mayor to contact both GBA and IHA and discuss with them and ask them about their interest potentially in exploring a collaborative effort, whereas they may, in fact, work it out between themselves as to who would have the front position, who might have the rear position. I think it was pretty common knowledge that the retail was going to, I think, have first dibs on that front position. While GBA made it clear that they would be happy to discuss that and explore that with IHA, after giving it some thought, came back to us and in no uncertain terms pretty much said that their only interest is in that first frontal position, and they declined to take us up on an opportunity to at least sit down and explore that. Now, having said that, that's not to say that they haven't changed their mind or they won't change their mind if, in fact, that was something that someone or anyone on council might want to suggest happen. It has happened at least once, and that was the outcome of that discussion.
Very good. Thank you for providing that context, and I do appreciate you following up on that, because I think actually the entire group of myself, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Gearbaugh, Mayor Pro Tem Tahar, legal counsel, and staff thought there was benefit in pitching the idea for collaboration. And I understand the two parties have some different goals, and that's fine, but we appreciate you making that offer, Tony, because I think that was wise. It was prudent. If there are no additional questions, I would encourage you to direct any future questions and concerns to the city manager. You'll provide some examples of some similar concepts that you've executed in other communities for our benefit. And again, this will be added as a discussion item at the next council meeting on, what is that, September 10th, to see if we can develop consensus and determine a path forward. Gentlemen, do you have anything else you'd like to add at this time?
That's it.
We appreciate your time very much. Thank you for the presentation and your interest in Lot 28. If there's nothing further, Tony, thank you for your time, too. I understand we're keeping you from a birthday celebration with your 21-year-old daughter. So you are excused. Wish her a happy birthday on behalf of myself and City Council.
And if this is being live streamed, I just might like to add to say happy birthday to Noel.
Thank you, Tony. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the work meeting at 7:24 p.m. Moved by Gearboss, seconded by Tahar. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.